Okay guys, I'm back with round 3. After round 2, your product should look like this. Could look like a cross or a little clover, but you're going to have 2 blocks on each side. For this stitch pattern, every round is going to add a block to each side. So for round 3, we should be adding a block in between the corners. So now remember, every time you start a new round, you're going to rotate or flip your work over. Okay, now every time you start a round, you're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to place 3 double crochets into the back bumps of the chain. So the chain here that's why we turn it before we chain, because it shows these back bumps up better. So into the 3rd chain from your hook, we're going to place our first double crochet into that back bump. 1, 2, and the last one for 3. All right, so now we have the first block of round 3. Because this one meets up against the next block here beside it, right there, get the yarn out of the way, we're going to be joining the block we just made to this chain 2 space here of that block from row 2. That's why we only needed 3 double crochets for the first block. All right, so just kiss that one up next against that next block into the top chain 2 space, slip stitch them together. Now here is where you're going to want to go ahead and place that stitch marker into that first block you made. That's going to help you keep track until you get it down, well, even after. I mean, I have actually added beginning blocks on the same row like 2 or 3 times before. So okay, we just added the first block of round 3. So we're going to chain 2 to get started. Now I want to show you this also. For the next block, it's going to be going up this way because here is the chain 2 space we joined to. Our block will be going here. But see, we have one we can join to. So we don't need to add a block. Therefore, this one's only going to have 3 double crochets. So yarn over into that chain 2 space with 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and 3. Oh, something else I forgot to mention with this yarn. It is very difficult to frog this yarn back to fix a mistake. Therefore, that is why I suggest when you're practicing and learning this that you start with just a different yarn that is easier to work with. All right, we did our 3 double crochets. Into the top 2 chain space of this block right next to it, slip stitch to join those together. All right, from this slip stitch that we joined to, we're going to be working our double crochets. But look, there's no place to join to from here to here. That means we're going to add a block. So we're going to need to add a block to this one to create a block here to join to here. So for that reason, we're going to need 4 double crochets so that we can work into that 4th one to create an additional block. So we're going to chain 2 into that chain 2 space with 4 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. All right. Now, the reason we did 4, remember, is because there's nothing for this one to attach to, okay? So we're going to need to add an additional block here, and we're using that 4th double crochet to work our double crochets for that block, that additional block. Once we add this one, we can join to the top of this block here. So for this one, we only need 3 because it will match up right next to a block that we can join to. So for that reason, we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. Once again, we just did that additional block, and that allows us to attach right next to that block, or right to that block right next to it on that top chain 2 space. Slip your hook into under that chain 2 space, do a slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 2 to start the next one. Once again, here's where we did the slip stitch. We're going to place a block here so you can see there's a block right next to it that we can attach to. Therefore, we only need 3 double crochets because we don't need to add an additional block. So into that chain 2 space that we slip stitched to, we're going to do 3 double crochets. 2 and 3. All right, so now that we added that additional block, then we match perfectly up here. We're going to attach to the top of this block. So slip stitch into the 2 chain space of the block right next to it, and it fits very nicely. Now, this is the chain 2 space we slip stitch to. Our block will be forming here, but look, we don't have a block to attach it to. So what do we need? We need to add an additional block. For that reason, we're going to do 4 double crochets into this chain 2 space. Chain 2, into that chain 2 space that we slip stitch into, 4 double crochets. That's 1. Remember, the chain 2 does not count as a double crochet. 2, 3, and 4. Now you should have the chain 2 and 4 double crochets into that chain 2 space. Now we're going to be working a double crochet into that 4th double crochet. We're going to be working a block into the 4th double crochet. Now once we do that block, it matches up with this one, therefore we only need 3. So into that double crochet, that 4th one, we're going to do 3. That is why we did a 4th double crochet on the block before this one, is because we needed to work into that 4th double crochet to create this additional block. Okay, so now you see that it matches up next to this block. So we're going to just slip stitch it to the top chain 2 space of the block next to it. All right, chain 2. Once again, we're going to be placing a block into that chain 2 space. It fits perfectly next to this one, therefore we only need 3 double crochets because we're not adding an additional block here. So we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. Okay, we did our 3 double crochets, we did our block, it matches up next to this one. We can join this to the top of that block there. So we're going to slip stitch it, chain 2. All right, now here's where we slip stitch to. We're going to be adding a block here, but look here, we don't have a block to join it to. Okay, so we're going to have to add an additional block here to be able to join to here. Actually, it's going to be here. So for that reason, we're going to chain double crochet 4 into this chain 2 space. 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, there's our 4. This is where we're going to add, you can rotate your work, add the block, and then it will be, we can join right here to the top of this one. So that's why we created that 4th double crochet, because we're working around it to create an additional block here. All right, chain 2 into that 4th double crochet. Let's work 3 double crochets. And 3. I want to keep that straight. It drives me bonkers. Okay, so now So we added an additional block. Therefore, it matches up. See how it's starting to form the shape? You'll start seeing it better the more rounds that we go. So into that top 2 chain space, slip stitch the block we just created to join them together, and chain 2. Now, let me get stuff out of the way. Okay, this is where we just slip stitched here. We're going to create a block here. Therefore, we don't need an additional block because we'll be able to join to this one. Okay, right there. For that reason, we only need 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space. So 1, 2, and 3. Pull my hook out. Now you can see that this one we're going to join. It slides right next to that one there. Now it may look a little short, but I promise you it will connect, okay? So we're going to join this one to this block, to the top 2 chain space, and it'll pull it together. See how that just fit perfectly? All right, chain 2. Now, here's the first block of round 3. So we're going to be placing, this is the slips where we joined with the into the 2 chain space. We're going to put a block here. So we only need 1 block because we're matched right up next to that first one. This is going to create the 4th corner of this round. For that reason, we only need 3 double crochets. Fold it down to get it out of the way. Right here, just flip it down. Into that 2 chain space, we're going to work 3 double crochets. 2 and 3. All right, take my hook out. See how that one fits up right nicely next to that one? Take our stitch marker out. Join the block we just finished to the first block of the round. And there we have round 3. So see, we have a corner. We have our 4 corners. And in between each corner, we have a block. So for round 4, we're going to be adding another block. So it's going to be there's going to be a corner, then 2 blocks, a corner, 2 blocks, a corner, 2 blocks, a corner, 2 blocks, a corner. So every round you're adding a block to each side. So I'll come back with round 4.